Hello and welcome to the ID Talk podcast. My name is Peter Counter and I am the editor-in-chief of FindBiometrics and Mobile ID World. And today on the show, we are focusing on transparency, ethics, and understanding in biometrics. These concepts are the three pillars for Thales TrUE Biometrics initiative, a philosophical approach to biometrics technologies with a strong moral core that positions education, collaboration, and compliance as guiding principles for innovation. To talk about this exciting topic, I am joined by Youzec Kurp, Vice President, Identity and Biometric Solutions at Thales. Our conversation starts by introducing TrUE Biometrics and how it informs Thales' approach to regulation and partnerships. We then dig into the ethics and education behind TrUE, discussing challenges, opportunities, and best practices, before getting into the practical matter of multimodality in the current biometrics landscape and hot vertical markets. I loved this chat because it touched on so many important aspects of the current biometrics landscape, so here it is, my conversation with Thales' Youzec Kurp, right here on the ID Talk podcast. Joining me today on the podcast to talk about an exciting initiative in biometrics and digital identity is Youzec Kurp, Vice President of Identity and Biometric Solutions at Thales. Youzec, thank you so much for joining me today on ID Talk.
Well, thank you, Peter, for giving us the opportunity to share a bit on biometrics with you.
It's truly my pleasure, and I'm excited to learn about the TrUE initiative that the TrUE Biometrics initiative that Thales has underway. And to set the stage, let's sort of introduce everybody to TrUE Biometrics. What does TrUE stand for, and how does this concept work in the realm of biometrics?
So again, thank you, Peter, for giving us the opportunity to share on this TrUE biometric approach that has been kicked off by Thales a few months back. This is an important topic for us. So the TrUE approach has been created by Thales and was actually first applied to artificial intelligence. And this approach actually aims at promoting a responsible use of technologies. This is crucial, obviously, in today's digital age, as artificial intelligence and biometric technologies have emerged as powerful tools. So at Thales, we think that it is our role as industry leader to not only educate users, whether they are actually citizens or consumers, but also to take a commitment with regards to the way we make these technologies available to the market, whether in the public or the private sphere. So TrUE stands for transparent, understandable, ethical, and TrUE Biometrics relates to Thales' commitment to apply these key principle pillars to our technology and the way we make it available to our customers. So let me explain a bit more what the pillars of this TrUE Biometrics approach are. So the first pillar is transparent. So transparent meaning that Thales undertakes to explain the rules by which its technology is deployed and designed to the extent possible under the rules governing data confidentiality and protection of sensitive information. The second pillar is understandable. So understandable because we commit to explain and to justify the use of the technology and the results associated to it in such a way that users can understand the data used to arrive at a conclusion and therefore be in a position to provide or not their prior consent for the technology to be used. And finally, the third pillar is about ethical, meaning that our technology follows objective standard protocols, complies with applicable laws, and promotes, and that's probably among the most important one, non-discrimination and equality.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. And I mean, what I learned about this initiative that Thales is undertaking, I felt like this is exactly the kind of direction that the overall industry should be moving. I mean, given the current global regulatory landscape around AI and facial recognition, and you mentioned that artificial intelligence is sort of where this began for Thales. I'm wondering, how does Thales prioritize the TrUE concept on an international level? And then what are some of the challenges that you face when operating across so many regions and trying to maintain a high level of integrity, which really seems to be at the heart of TrUE Biometrics?
So it's fair today that today biometrics, by the way, also relying on artificial intelligence technologies, is playing an increasing prominent role in our daily lives, and this is all around the world. And the current, as you rightly highlighted, the current global regulatory landscape is indeed complex, and we must recognize that it's really lacking today a universal standard. So the challenge for Thales, and why we'll deal today with more than 300 identity programs worldwide, is to actually deal with many different countries with different levels of awareness, commitment, and regulation when it comes to biometric technology. So we therefore have to closely work with all of them to not only strictly comply, but also support them into the definition of their respective regulation. So, very concrete example, it's about Europe, where the data regulation, the well-known GDPR, has set an harmonized legal framework across more than 27 states, enforcing in particular the explicit consent of users and stringent requirements when it comes to data privacy. And Thales is and has been an active contributor to these regulations through industry associations such as Eurosmart. So actually, in line with our TrUE Biometrics commitment that I just introduced to you, we have decided to not only promote our GDPR compliant biometric solution in Europe, but also on a worldwide basis, as many other states are implementing similar regulation. And Peter, I wish to add here that we do not only comply with these international regulations and promote the most stringent ones, such as the GDPR, but we also consider that it's very important to set to ourselves a set of guidelines on digital trust and responsibility, and this as a way to better combine our innovation priorities with our mission and commitment, which is to build a future we can all trust. Mm-hmm. And I wish here to refer to Thales Digital Ethics Charter and the 10 commitments that support it. So I won't go through the 10 commitments, but just wanted to highlight the 3 main ones that are directly related to our TrUE biometric approach. The first one, which is to help to make the world safer and more secure. The second one, which is to help to build a more environmental responsible world. And the third one, which is to build a more inclusive and more equitable world. And last point is that these are not only words. Just wanted to highlight the fact that we are actually promoting and enforcing these values and commitments in all our discussions around biometric, with, of course, our customers and the end users, so therefore the citizens, but also with all our partners and suppliers.
It fills me with a lot of hope to hear that Thales is so dedicated to these ideas, just on a company level and through an educational and ethical level, because as you and I both know, regulations, especially on a global scale, really take a lot of time to come into effect. And there's particularly in our industry, people have been calling it, quote, the Wild West for a long time and racing ahead of regulations. But really, I think in order for us to get something as important as biometrics and digital identity right, you really have to take that initiative as a leader in the space and say, no, we do stand for this, and sort of lead by example. You mentioned that this is a very collaborative space that you work with here. You've got your partners, your customers, et cetera. Partnerships and alliances and working groups, they really are integral in order to bring digital identity technologies like biometrics into the real world. My question is, what role does collaboration play for Thales in helping realize TrUE Biometrics?
Well, obviously, our ambition is not only to lead by example, but also to make sure that we actually share the same ambition with the rest of the industry and the entire ecosystem in which we evolve. So, well, first of all, this is not a journey that started yesterday. Thales has been helping to shape the biometric fields for more than 30 years now, making it one of our core technology. And as a reliable and responsible technology partner, we have indeed a key role to play in sharing this approach and associated values. So we actually support many different initiatives that raise awareness of the benefits, but also of the risk of adopting biometric identification technology. If I would have to pick up one, well, I wish to highlight the fact that I'm actually one of the board members of the Security Identity Alliance, in which our teams, jointly with our industry partners, are actually developing and facilitating standards within the field of biometrics in identity, with again the ultimate objective, which is to shape a safe and inclusive future while ensuring the protection of civil liberties.
I wanted to now talk a little bit more about something that you brought up earlier in our conversation, talking about equity and bias. Equity is a real core concept for properly implemented biometrics and digital identity. Everybody has an identity and they deserve to be able to assert it and have it protected, no matter how they're using it. How has Thales addressed the mainstream worry of bias in biometric technology, and how much of this is really a technological issue to be addressed through innovation versus how much is a public perception issue that should be addressed through communication?
Well, as we just discussed, Peter, you're right to say that, again, education and communication are key. Even if the innovation is the answer, spreading the right message will definitely help convincing, but also reinsuring and spreading trust around this technology. So for sure, Thales addresses the mainstream worry around the bias issue, and is even more important when it is related to biometric technology. So again, promoting non-discrimination and equality is a key direction of our ethical pillar of the TrUE biometric approach. And our expert looks to do that at the best accuracy, equality across ethnicity, age, and gender. So indeed, it's a matter of communication, but it's also a matter of focus in terms of innovation and technology. And to do that, we are obviously making sure that our solutions are built in a robust and relying on diverse data set. So as such, we aim at guaranteeing the highest standard of biometric by harnessing the latest AI technologies in particular, but also liveness detection, as well as testing these technologies not only within our own labs, but also relying on external parties. And obviously, we work closely with the well-known NIST Institute in the US, which actually share the same values as ours, which is to ensure a high-performing environment that is safe and respectful of all.
Yeah, though that third-party testing is very, very important with this, and it's great to again see that collaboration and community as part of this. We were talking about regulations and how that's affecting everything. A big part of regulations, of course, when it comes to biometrics, really have to do with the collection and storage of data, like all data regulations, really. And I'm wondering, given the way that everything in biometrics and digital identity is evolving, what role does multimodality play in the overall biometric landscape?
Well, as you know, biometrics started with fingerprint usage for law enforcement application. And it is indeed now fair to say that a number of new modalities have since then emerged, such as face, iris, but also voice, DNA, and many others. So I think to answer your question, it all depends on the use case. Such modality will be more relevant depending on the foreseen application. Combining modalities is indeed also becoming a need. So for instance, whereas fingerprints are now widely used for secure payments, For convenience reasons, face is becoming the standard for applications such as border control or access control. We also foresee airport authorities working at improving the operation efficiency and the passenger experience using face recognition. And it is sometimes combined with iris verification when also addressing border control use cases. So as usual, security, and I think it answers your question with regards to multimodality. The question is about security versus convenience, and we think that each modality will support specific use cases, multimodal biometrics bringing more security when it is required and depending on the application. Thales, well, again, as global leader in cybersecurity and data protection, offers the required solution both in terms of security, well, again, relying on more than 40 years of expertise on security and data protection.
Yeah, you mentioned aviation and border control. We're also seeing massive interest in financial services, government, and even though this is a little bit more nascent, healthcare as well. These are big markets for digital ID. My question for you, and this is sort of my last question before we wrap up, what vertical markets excite you the most for biometrics and why?
So the one that I'm going to answer you very directly, Peter, the one that excites me the most is the one that I'm taking care of, which is the government one. And in my specific business, so identity and biometric solution, we cover all common types of biometric modalities, whether this is fingerprint, facial, or iris. For instance, well, we indeed support government in civil identity, but also population registration, voter registration program, and especially the one supported by the United Nations. We are also helping indeed border and travel authorities to secure, but also to automate and facilitate border and passenger management. And this is true for air, land, and sea operations. And obviously, we also provide law enforcement agencies and police forces with biometric technologies for various purposes, including obviously solving crime, but also preventing and fighting against fraud.
Fantastic. Well, I mean, it does make a lot of sense, and government is definitely some, it's definitely come back from the financial services boom. Personally, for me, as one of the most exciting spaces for biometrics too. So we're on the same page there. Before we wrap up, I just want to ask Youzec, how can listeners get in touch with you to learn more about the topics that we discussed in this episode?
Well, the auditors are more than welcome to get in contact with me on LinkedIn, for instance. And the easiest way is probably to get in touch with our experts through our website.
Fantastic. Well, we'll have that link in the show notes there for people. So just open up your player and click on that to go on through and learn more. In the meantime, though, Youzec, thank you so much. This has been a wonderful conversation. I hope to have you back on the podcast soon.
Well, thank you, Peter, for giving us the opportunity to share on this very important topic, which is the true biometric approach from Thales.
And so concludes my conversation with Youzec Kurp, Vice President, Identity and Biometric Solutions at Thales. To learn more about the topics discussed in this episode, visit thalesgroup.com by following the link in the show notes. And for the most important biometrics and identity news, interviews, and thought leadership, stay posted to FindBiometrics. I want to thank Youzec for joining me in this episode. Our podcast theme music is by Logomrad. I have been your host, Peter Counter. Thank you for listening to the ID Talk Podcast.